Good evening. Welcome to the Steel City Huddle podcast. I'm Leanne Lohman, joined as always by my partner, Zach Franciscus, coming to you live on a Victory Tuesday after our very exciting Week 1 win over the New York Jets and the Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields revenge game. They managed to pull it out 34-32. We're going to get into the game in detail in a little bit, but Zach, just off the bat, you got to get it off your chest. What were your immediate feelings about that game?
Immediately, I was trying to calm myself down in both respects, both to not overreact how excited I was about the offense, but also to a couple things I thought were pretty glaring that I was like, calm down until I saw the tape.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
And we're going to
overall, I felt really good.
break the whole game down in just a little bit. We got a couple of little things to get through first, but you got to love Relic immediate. His immediate feeling about the game is fuck Broderick Jones, and I think everybody in Steeler Nation felt like that. So we're going to break down exactly how bad that was. But before we talk about that, huge news. So we'll back it up a little bit right before the game since it happened since our last show. And I don't want to spend like an hour doing this, but Cam Hayward did work out a deal with the Steelers on Saturday before that game, kind of right there at the deadline. They worked out an agreement to give him basically some incentive money onto the contract he already had. So I'm curious, Zach, what was your thoughts about that? I know a lot of Steelers fans were angry. They felt like Cam threw a fit. I mean, it was all this like stuff about like, oh, now he can feed his family and stuff. So what was your immediate thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it was the same people getting that angry are the same people from the Mark Madden crowd that simply their only enjoyment from their life comes from tearing other people down. Um, and that I felt the same way about that I felt it's the TJ thing. I'm like, it's gonna happen. I'm like, it's going to happen. I didn't think it was gonna be like that last minute. I thought Cam was gonna play either way, but I'm just glad it's done, and it was one more thing to put in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, we talked about this real quickly the other night when we did our little preview show, and I think we both kind of agreed that there was like zero chance Cam wasn't going to play. And the comments, being made from like Mike Tomlin, I mean, Cam was obviously being a little bit coy with like, it could happen, but Mike Tomlin being so confident, I feel like he'd have said something different. I don't think he would have called Cam out, but I think he would have said something like, you never know what'll happen with contracts or whatever. So I always thought he was going to play. I felt like this allowed both sides to kind of save face, for Cam to feel like he was being respected and acknowledged for the huge stride he made last year. And if he really kind of put that deal into effect with him last year about like, hey, I acknowledge I was injured, but I'm going to bounce back and have this amazing season. When I have an all pro season, I want you to compensate me for that. I felt like that gave him a chance to, because right, who wants, like, what grown person wants to put that out there and then just walk away from it not taking a deal? You look like a punk, right? So I felt like this, not that much money, the Steelers had it, nobody's going hungry. Yeah, and I don't know, I find the whole way that fans are like so angry about this bizarre. Like, you're talking
I,
about an industry where people make millions and millions of dollars every year. So if you have an issue with what people get paid, that's not Cam's fault.
and I'm pretty sure I if I'm understanding it correct, they didn't actually pay him. They just put the potential for him to make more money. It's mainly incentives. I'm pretty sure
Right.
that
It
they
is.
switched
It is.
over. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Zachary
So
Smith
so
is
he
here, and he said he
yeah.
thinks that Cam took it, what he could get, and it's a good chance he doesn't see any extra money. And that's kind of what I was getting at. I mean, I just think it's this opportunity for everybody to save face, right? So Cam feels like there's something put into place in case he does have another all pro season. If he doesn't, by that time, everybody will have forgotten about it.
Exactly. And this defense, while there's many things we'll talk about, I'm not going to say I'm giving them a pass, but it's a self-inflicted wound of not being on the field together. It takes a little while. Aaron Rodgers and this offense knew that they had to get on the same page early and had no chance for any like hiccups. The defense, on the other end, this was like the first time the secondary was all together. So that's a self-inflicted wound, but that's kind of to be expected. And that'll get better. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. So the other big news that I wanted to make sure we talk about, because this happened today, was the signing of Jabril Peppers. I had to read that like 6 times. I'm like, is this happening? This is the weirdest year ever. So he was originally drafted by the Browns in the first round. I think it was 2017. Since then, he's been with the Patriots. He had some legal trouble last year. I think it was some sort of like a domestic violence charge or an assault charge, something along those lines. But he was acquitted. So there was nothing happening in regards to that. He's off the hook for whatever those legal charges were. And so it was kind of a surprise when the Patriots let him go. So Deshaun Elliott having an injury that's going to keep him out, it looks like, for a couple weeks. He'll help out in the short and long term. I know Mike Tomlin talked about how much he loves his versatility. He's loving all of these kind of versatile players, and he's one of them.
Oh, absolutely. And what Deshaun Elliott's injury, number one, so glad it wasn't worse, because I've torn my ACL, and the second I saw him go down, I was like, that's the season. So him just having an MCL sprain is amazing, but it immediately showed that we had no depth at safety. Just immediately, like, oh, no one. And so this is everything I've been reading today about it. There's a couple of people that have said that it's not just about the now. It's about whenever Deshaun Elliott's back and healthy, and it's going to add that depth that we don't have and a couple cookie cutter pieces to move around again. But this is pretty much Deshaun Elliott 2.0.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, I like it. I think it makes a lot of sense. So it'll be interesting to see how, when Deshaun Elliott comes back, he works into the rotation. I agree, we have a depth issue there, and so he certainly helps to solve that problem.
Oh, absolutely. So, and anything that helps this defense right now get on the same page faster, I'm okay with.
Right. And yeah, hold the defense thought. Wanted to bring up 2 other things, because look, I'm not usually the one to do like the sour grapes or to like cast stones at somebody, but when you leave and you're a shithead like George Pickens was, you really deserve it. So you have to just love that in the game, one of the things that's being overlooked was George Pickens' lackadaisical route running, and it really hurt the Cowboys. And I mean, I spent the whole offseason reading Cowboys fans talking about how they were going to know how to use him, and he was going to be so good in Dallas. And I mean, he comes right out week 1 with the lackadaisical route running. He didn't even have time to be angry yet.
It's not just this. This could have happened. This could have not happened. And I still would have thought that the DK Metcalf George Pickens thing is now officially put to bed. People see the difference between this. Just emphasizes it. So and this the good riddance and the addition by subtraction, because he is legitimately their problem now. So Dallas, enjoy.
Zach Smith tagged back on about the Jabril Peppers thing and said that Chuck Clark filled in admirably, but he's just a box safety. Peppers can carry tight ends at the seam, running backs into the backfield. Clark can't, so extremely versatile. So that was kind of what Tomlin was alluding to in his press conference today. I think he's a nice addition, and I think he's a guy who's maybe a little bit salty about leaving New England, and so hopefully this is a chance for him to feel like he gets an opportunity to play himself. So speaking of former Steelers behaving badly, we heard so much garbage about Dan Moore and how we should have kept him, and somehow there is this magic value or talent assigned to him because he got paid all this money. But yeah, I guess the Titans fans aren't feeling that way. So Tommy Jaggy tweeted out that if you're worried about Broderick Jones, he gets it. We're going to talk about Broderick in a minute, but at least we can feel vindicated in not giving Dan Moore 4 years, $82 million contract that the Titans gave him. He was terrible in week 1, allowing 4 pressures, committing 2 penalties. He earned a 38.1 overall PFF grade. I mean, that's the Dan Moore we know and love. And the Titans fans immediately, way to go. Nope, wrong one. Titans fans immediately took to Twitter. Can I get the right one up here? There we go. Sick of Dan Moore after week 1. So they are already angry. He fucking sucks. How the fuck do we pay him all that money? Dan Moore, really enjoy it if you weren't dog shit. I mean, yeah, tell us what you really think, Titans fans. Tell us what you really think. And look, I'm just going to say it's week 1, right? Like, talked about this last night on Joe's podcast, like it's week 1. So I think week one kind of lies and people improve and get better and, you know, even out
Yep.
and lines settle in and all of those things. So I think that there's, a lot that could still happen there. So let's talk about our offensive line and the Steelers and that exciting win over the Jets. That was a nail biter. 34-32 down to the wire. Thank God for Chris Boswell, who's also on my fantasy team. And I didn't really think that through when I drafted him. I usually don't pick Steelers because I believe in like juju and karma. And I worry that I'm somehow jinxing stuff. But he really pulled through for me. And I was very grateful. Much better than the Steelers defense did for you, Zach.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll pay off down the line. So
Right. I think it's going to. But let's talk about that offense a little bit and talk about Broderick Jones. I mean, I think it was, frustrating to see that, he allowed these sacks for pressures. I mean, I thought it was 2 sacks, but Nick Farbaugh says it was 3 sacks. I'm sure he's right. I mean, that's a lot. And so do you think, look, Zach and I both heard it relentlessly last year that all of his problems will be solved once he moves to the right side of the line. So what went wrong? We moved him.
it, it was a tale of two tackles, is what I would call if I wrote a book about this, because both guys started out shaky. Absolutely. Try because you have Troy Fatano on one side and Broderick Jones is the first. The difference was Troy Fatano really warmed to the game. Eventually, you could tell it clicked in his head. It's like, oh, just play football. Okay, I know how to do this. Broderick just, I was hoping that the tape wouldn't be as bad as what I saw on the screen. And the more I watched the tape, it was awful. It was a whole game of him doing this weird thing. I'm not an offensive lineman. So if any offensive lineman watches can let me know why he does this, he'll push him away and then just stare at them with his hands at his sides and then think he can keep up with them. Which, by the way, Troy Fortano can do, because I noticed dude's fast. Troy
Yeah.
Fortano was a fast human being, but my God, Broderick Jones.
Did you see the
The
meme that
first,
I tagged you in on Twitter? I swear to God, that was the most perfect thing. It was exactly what he was like the guy pushing the subway train down and then opening the
yes,
doors and then like jumping out of the way. Like that's exactly what it felt like watching him play. It was bizarre.
it was every bad habit I could imagine, and that's why I don't know what more we have to see. I don't want to say the word bust yet, but this project has not gone well because, like I said last week, you know how good a player is by what happens when he's forced to rely on nothing but muscle memory. And everything Broderick Jones fell back on was obviously someone who was bigger and stronger than the people in front of him in college and just bought off of that. The Jamarcus Russell of left tackles.
I brought it up on the show like 100 times. Darnell Washington talked about that last season or this last season or the season before. I think it was last season about how when they were at Georgia together, he really didn't play that much. And he kind of said, when everybody around you is so talented and the people you're playing against are not so talented all the time, that it really does allow you to kind of take a break or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or not have to go full strength every time. Relic says that Broderick Jones stands up and doesn't have that get that pushes people. And I mean, it's something. It does feel like that, And I just keep saying it's week one. Like I hope this was just, some rust or, just working, need to oil the machine a little bit or whatever. Zachary Smith said he's mirroring motion and grabbing, just absorbing the opposing player. Typically, McDonald's Sunday, there's no punch in those hands. And yeah, I mean that's like my subway train thing. You saw it, it's just kind
Now,
of him like there like this, and then just ducking out of the way or moving out of the way.
it really affected the game because number one, I need to make this very clear. This is a game that we lose every single year since Ben left. Every year we would lose this game. This is not a game we would have lost badly. I'm talking like 24-10. Like it would have been this weird blowout that no one would understand. Aaron Rodgers is a huge reason we won this game. We'll get to that. But because of how Broderick Jones was blocking near the end of the game, you could see Aaron Rodgers' little head thing where he just checked where Broderick was and then based his run off of that. You can't, that's an extra millisecond that is unnecessarily being spent. So I'm just saying, whether it's Darnell Washington in that position or someone else, that this cannot go on past the bye week. Never take the NFL seriously till week 4. We're gonna have that long trip that I'll be there for, and then we'll come back. We'll get our bye week. If Broderick Jones does not figure it out by then, honestly, any depth player would be less dangerous for Aaron Rodgers right now.
Well, that's kind of what you wonder at some point. You know what I mean? Do you almost treat this like if he got injured and you just roll with depth? I mean, you hate that. You know what I mean? I didn't know that Smitty was an expert in this way. That he played junior high school offensive line. By the way, clearly expert level.
The expert.
Right. Criteria there.
Well, it's more that's more offensive line than I think either of us ever played.
Right. Yeah, they wouldn't let me play. I tried. Relic did bring up, though, that we threw over the middle a few times. And man, I said this, that it was unbelievable. It felt like you were watching like a real offense for the first time in a long time. And look, it was far from perfect. I'm definitely not saying that. But, to see Aaron Rodgers out there, the way he reads the fields, the way he picks up on what the defense is doing, he throws the ball over the middle of the field at times, all of those things. It felt like Arthur Smith's game plan was finally, in Tomlin's terms, at a varsity level. I mean, we were putting points on the board. I mean, you're right. This is a game that a couple of years ago, we would have lost this game. Do you know what I mean? We might have started out strong, but our defense would have gotten tired. The offense would have fallen apart. We would have taken our foot off the gas, whatever it was, and lost the game. So how much of an impact do you feel like, here, let's do Lou Relic stats before we talk about Aaron Rodgers. He said Steelers have 100% red zone efficiency, 19 first downs, average yards per play, 5 yards. Aaron Rodgers was the reason we won. So good lead in. But Broderick did not allow Rodgers to pass downfield. It's infuriating. So how much do you feel like, I mean, look, it's a team effort, right? So we'll say that the whole offensive line wasn't terrible. The rest of the offense, the running game wasn't great, but the wide receiver group was good. We'll talk about those guys. But how much of an impact do you feel like just having Aaron Rodgers there was? Would Russ have been able to do this?
No, it's not that I wanted it to fail, but I was like, okay, if we ease into it, then maybe a part of me can say, well, see, I wasn't completely wrong about the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. No, I was really wrong. I have really missed seeing a competent offense being run in Pittsburgh. I actually forgot what it was. I felt like I was watching a different game. I kept looking at me like, am I watching a Kansas City game or like an LA Chargers game? The way he adjusted this, it was like this first 4 or 5 plays when he realized what Broderick was going to be the whole game. In his mind, he adjusted. It's like, fine, we're going to do short stuff. And Arthur Smith adjusted on the fly. That would not have happened last year or the year before. So despite not having a successful running game, despite having a tackle who couldn't block, and despite a defense who really, really couldn't get out of their own way, we won that football game. And Ben Roethlisberger rarely had 4 touchdowns without a couple interceptions thrown in there, because that was Ben. Not used to this. It's a lot of, and I know it's the week when I'm really trying not to get too overexcited, but it's just getting this because of what I was worried it was going to be a San Francisco punch in the mouth game. It made a huge difference. Yeah. I don't mind admitting I was wrong. This is the kind of wrong I don't mind being at all.
There was all that talk. We talked about this on our preview show, all that talk about like, this is this revenge game, like Rodgers against the Jets and Justin Fields against the Steelers and all this stuff. And I think you and I both kind of felt like that was a little bit like, wah, 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 like not that exciting of a revenge game. But I guess it was a little bigger for Aaron Rodgers than maybe I assumed it was, because after the game, they asked him, how he felt about coming in. And I know Aaron Glenn wasn't very complimentary of him. So I come in to feel and beat him. And he made that comment about how he was just happy to beat everybody associated with the Jets. Like, yikes, that was a broad statement. Apparently, except for the one equipment manager that he was out there hugging and throwing the ball with. But yeah, I mean, so maybe he was a little bit more frustrated than at least I realized. I won't talk for other people, but
Yeah, and apparently, a big part of being able to run a successful offensive scheme in the NFL is having a quarterback who can do so. Because Arthur
we
Smith
wouldn't
was
know.
scheming guys open. Like I was just looking and I was seeing guy, and even if he wouldn't have hit the first guy, the second guy was there, and a lot of it was based. It was just I was really impressed because yet again I don't think there's time on offense when I said, "Nah, I think this play would have done a better." I was just like, "Oh, well, good play. I like that." Okay, I wasn't having to place armchair offensive coordinator.
Right, right. So obviously, Jets fans were furious, right? Like they took to Twitter to like go nuts and blow up. And I love this. They came out after the game was over. So now he can play. And they're like, oh, what the hell? And you can't see it because it's hidden under our logo. But this is what's in the upper corner. Like, I got nothing
Oh,
against
that's
Russell Wilson, but it's just like perfect. Russ is salty. He's mad. Aaron Rodgers, big smile on his face. Yay, me. Yeah, Russ Watch already talking about firing Russ, which is, look, I have no ill will against the guy. I like the guy, but yeah, what a difference. I mean, this felt like a huge difference. And I think, at least from my perspective, I think you felt the same way. We were a little concerned that this was just going to be, slightly more talented than Wilson or more talented than Wilson, but still just more of the same. And this felt like something different. So again, week one, but felt good. Hopefully it goes up from there with somebody like Aaron Rodgers. It certainly shouldn't go down from there. Relic said one issue that he doesn't see people talking about. We had one drive in the first quarter, time 5 minutes, 31 seconds, 10 plays, 71 yards, and a touchdown. But one drive in one quarter is not a good thing. And I mean, doesn't some of this kind of go to not only like our offense sustaining drives, but our defense has got to shut these guys down and, get them off the field. And to me, it felt like we really struggled there. So we'll turn our attention to the defense in a second. But I want to talk about the run game. Relic said he's calling it now. The curse of Naj is hitting the run game right now. I certainly hope not. What did you think was happening in the run game? I mean, it just seemed like it never got going.
I think it was the game kind of dictated is what I saw and what I heard from Mike Tomlin. The second they realized what it was going to take to win, and the answer wasn't running the football, and the Jets aren't, slouchers on defense. This was a good Jets defense, and they did not want us to run the football. And so we just weren't able to. I didn't see anything outside of Broderick Jones not being able to run block either. But I didn't see enough to be concerned about it past this week. They'll watch the game tape. And like Aaron said after the game, the best thing about week one wins is you have a ton of usable material, but you have a win to go with it.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody said, and I think this is so true. He said they dared Aaron and Arthur to win with the passing attack, and they did that. But I felt like this is something that we would have gotten dared to do in another season and not been able to do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it definitely felt like this game, our wide receivers really stepped up. I thought it was great, and like you said in the very beginning of the show, that difference with a guy like DK Metcalf. I mean, it was just huge to see him out there, just in not even like his biggest game, but what we saw from him was so solid. Ben Skoranek, that was exciting, and Calvin Austin stepping up. So what did you see from that wide receiver group? Were any surprises?
Ben Skoranek. You told me Ben Skoranek scores the first touchdown, and apparently I didn't know how much he's been making sure to spend time around Aaron Rodgers, like going out of his way, inviting him to custard shops. I think he says that he was invited, like he said, every day after practice and training camp, he would be asking me to go to a custard shop and trying to pick my brain. And Mike Tomlin said that Ben Skoranek is the only person on the roster who's maybe a little too sure of his talents. But yeah, no, other than that, Calvin Austin answered a lot of questions. Mark Caboli on his podcast earlier put it very, very, very well when he said a lot of people said, "Well, where's Roman Wilson?" He's like, "Who cares?" He's like, "We didn't need him.
Right.
We didn't need Roman. We have a lot of people, and I mean, we used Jonnu Smith a couple times, but he wasn't like this huge breakout thing. We didn't see Darnell Washington yet. We didn't see Scotty Miller. The amount of people we have that can win, the fact that Skronik stepped up and recovered a fumble, and then Kenneth Gainwell forced it. Overall, it was just this is a scrappy receiver group, and I did not know how fast DK Metcalf could accelerate.
Yeah.
That is a
Fact.
huge human being just moving very quickly after an embarrassing case of the dropsies earlier. He just
Yeah.
bounced back, which, by the way, would have thrown Pickens. Pickens would have thrown a temper tantrum.
Would have thrown Deontay Johnson off. Yeah, that was huge to see. I thought he looked really good. He's really fast. Do you feel like Calvin Austin is a legit wide receiver too? Did he kind of cement that
Yes.
in your mind?
It wasn't just the speed. I didn't know he could climb that tree. He went up and above that guy. I didn't know he could do that. So if you're willing to just be a bigger person even when you're not and in a wide receiver position, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So and his route running is really getting good. His understanding of where he's supposed to be, that kind of Hines Ward awareness of soft zones or where things like that. It's exciting to see, and you can definitely see why this whole time this team has been like, no, we don't have to go get another person. No, we don't have to go get someone else. Everyone stop. We don't have to. I bet they were all really excited for Calvin Austin to have this chance to show people why.
I'm sure. Smitty said he thinks he was the best offensive player on the field for either team. And I got to agree with him. I have to agree. I thought that was a huge leap forward for him. I thought it was getting him. He's obviously been putting in the hard work and it's paying off. And so I love that for him. I agree with you about what you said about Roman Wilson earlier. I heard that too. I'll be honest, I was a little surprised we didn't really see much of Darnell Washington because we kept hearing these clips out of camp about how much he and Aaron Rodgers, the chemistry between them. So I thought we'd see him a little bit more. So I was a little surprised about that. But if you don't, you're right. If you don't need Roman Wilson, no other team is playing their whole depth chart on in every game. So
Yeah, there's just so much good to take away from it, and what there is bad and or concerning that we'll talk about, I think it's fixable. I would rather have a win this way than how we normally have it and squeak something out 13-7 and say, goodness gracious, I hope this offense is going to learn better. No. This is only the fifth time since Ben Roethlisberger's retired that we've scored more than 31 points. So that's insane.
yeah, and it's hard. I mean, you look at the 34 points, and then you're talking about things that there's always improvement to be made, right? There's not very many perfect games, so there's definitely improvement to be made, and even on the offense where they scored 34 points. But you certainly want to work from this position and work your way up than a game where you've got to, two or three field goals or even six field goals like we had that one game. So at least you're working in the right direction, getting in the red zone, putting the ball in the end zone, all of those things. So let's shift over for a minute and talk about the defense because, wow, like it felt, I don't know, like I felt all offseason, all I heard was how great this defense was going to be, and they really struggled.
Hey, and it wasn't like we started out strong and that we struggled right off the bat, like an 18-yard run. Then it just kind of seemed like it was the same game from the end of last season. We were just watching another quarter of it, and I was not happy with that. Um, Now, like I said earlier, I think a lot of these defensive players not being on the same field with each other. You had TJ Watt with his temporary holding. You had Cameron Hayward with the holding. You had the secondary that really didn't really play together a lot. There's a lot of defensive gelling that has to happen that the offense already took care of. And yeah, I'll say it again. I'd prefer it that way. If there had to be an imbalance of it, I'd rather the offense get their shit together now and the defense can figure it out because this is a defense. There's a lot of changes are happening and they're going to have to adjust. I'm not worried about it. It's 1 week. And from the way that they talked about it, they are very aware about what they need to do, and they're very aware that they should. In years past, they wouldn't have won this game. And Mike Tomlin said, if you keep playing like this, the Bills will come due. So it's you get this week, now do better later.
Yeah, and you brought up that they're really aware. So after the game, Patrick Queen said, "We, the defense, played like shit. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We played like shit. If we keep playing like that, we're going to get our face mashed in. It's that simple. I call it like it is, and we played like absolute trash." And I mean, I don't know that there was anything other than that that they could even say. I mean, it's just how it was. I mean, Relic brought up that they're the highest paid defense in the league and they can't stop the run. I mean, you certainly hope that this is just, it's week one, right? It's week one, and they just need to get their act together. So I was going to ask you, so you feel like there is like a delay in their progress because the whole group wasn't together, because Mike Tomlin always presents it like Cam and TJ and those guys, they don't need to be out there, in training camp that much or in preseason that much, because they're such professionals and they work all the time. So it's not that big of a deal, it's not that concerning. But you think that hindered them a little bit because they didn't have that time to like work together.
I do. It was not just a big turnover with the defense. Significant areas of leadership and communication had turnover, and there I think with the people that were there last season, there's lingering frustrations and maybe some stuff they didn't mentally deal with when they immediately started on a bad foot. And then the new guys were probably frustrated, asking for some communication. It was probably one of the more frustrating days defensively in Pittsburgh that I can remember. But like I said, normally we'd lose a game like this, and that's where the defense has to just do better next time. And I know it sounds juvenile to just say do better next time, but with this kind of a defense, you got the win. Just go do your thing now.
Well, I walked
Because
away from it thinking about all the games we've had where the defense has bailed out our offense, right? And we say, "Oh, well, thank God for our defense," right? Remember that game, was it against the Browns where they scored two defensive touchdowns, like Highsmith and Watt had one, and that won us the game. So, I mean, we've had games where it's been flipped around the other way. So it's an unusual change for us to see them like this. Smith said he brought up he doesn't understand the Erob thing. I haven't understood this since it happened. Let him go for $3 million to sign Malik Harrison. Yeah, I don't understand that. I never understood that. I thought maybe there was something I was going to see there that I hadn't seen before. He also brought up that Keanu Benton and Peyton Wilson were awful. And I was shocked by Peyton Wilson. I mean, Keanu Benton didn't totally surprise me. He's been a little bit kind of inconsistent, but I was surprised by Peyton Wilson.
it was, at least to me, dude was trying to do way too much. Way too much. He was overrunning things. He was trying to be. Uh, he doesn't have to do that. And maybe that's what happened with a lot of the defensive guys. There weren't. It wasn't a defensive unit. There were 11 players out there, and a lot of times it was very clear. And an offense can smell that. This is a well-coached Jets team.
Yeah.
And they can smell that when. And I remember when I was interviewing my brother Lakota, he said that he's like, as an offensive or defensive lineman, it would take me two plays to figure out if the guy in front of me didn't know what was going on in that day.
Yeah.
And if the entire defense is off, then the Jets just have their way most of the time.
Yeah. Relic said, "How many times have we heard this from the defense before? We played like shit, blah, blah, blah." And that might be true. We've heard the offense say it too. I don't know what else you're supposed to say, right? Like, what is the other thing you would say other than that? I'd rather they said that than some BS excuse like we've heard from people before, or you hear other teams make. I'd rather they just owned it, that like, hey, we didn't play well enough. I mean, because that's really the truth of it all. Cornerbacks had no interest in defending the run. Tomlin had to to hate that. I bet he did. I bet that made him nuts.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it shocked me because I expected, with all the issues last year where they looked like they were in silos and they looked disjointed and they weren't communicating, I fully expected us to not see that this year and see something more cohesive.
Yeah, there's a lot of surprises on the defense. And this is going to be a game where they'll watch it once, they will learn from it, and then hopefully they get to forget it exists. That's the best way. But my goodness gracious. It's now, now with the run game thing, the Jets were beyond determined to not run at TJ. There were they just there were I sent you the carry chart for Brees Hall, and it is all at the left side of that line. And so there was a few times where I was getting frustrated early on at TJ. I was like, why are you leaping at guys? Why are you leaping? When they are running away from you constantly, and you realize that it's working, then the couple times they even went close to TJ's side, they didn't get anywhere. And there was a couple of times where TJ still got across there when they were running away from him. So the I had to rethink that when I went to the tape. That originally I was frustrated. I'm like, okay, TJ, we just paid you all this money, you're doing, and then I'm like, oh, they're legitimately not giving you. It's the equivalent of like triple teaming a wide receiver. Like you're simply not going to do anything in this particular part of the game. So, or when like there was Namdi Asamoah and the Raiders or things like that. Well, you don't throw at cornerbacks that are that good. You don't run a TJ Watt. So
I do think that there is a component of it too where, where a team starts to find some success and success breeds success, and like by the flip side, struggles, and you get in your head and you start, especially, it has to be leaving, ending last year on the note that they ended it, playing so badly, the defense taking so much crap from everybody, them knowing that they hadn't performed well enough and really cost us there at the end of the season. So that to me has to be like in the back of your mind a little bit. And it's sort of like in the first game of the season for Alabama when Florida State beat them and they shouldn't have. You saw Florida State, man, they scored and they were like, oh shit, we can do this. Do you know what I mean? And they just, their confidence, you could see it growing and growing and growing as Alabama was getting like more and more in their head. And that was a little bit how it felt to me. And you've got to be able, as like a professional, you've got to be able to kind of overcome that. I think this is an interesting point. Zach said he's not attributing it to this at all, by the way, but it's the same for everybody. I think there has to be some thought of, quote, nobody plays in the preseason, so early on it's just going to be ugly. We just have to win. And look, maybe that is true. And if it is that really the worst thing ever? I mean, if nobody's going to play in the preseason, look at all the guys on other teams that got hurt, right, and are out now. And you're going to get hurt. Who knows? You could get hurt week 1 too. But you want to minimize those risks. So if you're not going to play, then maybe, as long as they find a way to get the win, does it really matter if they work out a few kinks?
exactly. I mean, it could be much worse. We could have, dropped a 15-point lead and with a couple minutes left on national television like the Ravens did. So I went to sleep. I was like, I'm tired. I'm gonna go to sleep. I woke up and I was like, wait, what? Then I did the same with the Monday night game. I was like, okay, I'm tired. And then I woke up. I'm like, okay, I need to stop falling asleep for games because stuff. Well, anytime you can win, when the Ravens lose like that, when the Bengals barely beat the Browns, and we come out looking much better than we expected offensively, I will take that all day. I mean, the Ravens just I don't know. And I found out this is the 19th time in John Harbaugh's career he's lost a double-digit lead in the
I
fourth
saw
quarter.
that. Like
That's
3 of them were to
insane.
the Steelers. Did you see that chart? Like 3 of them were to the Steelers. I saw that game when I woke up the next day. I went to sleep too. I had Derrick Henry in fantasy, and he fumbled the ball and cost me the win against Zach this week. If he just held on to the goddamn ball, I'd have beaten Zach. So we're all clear how I feel about King Henry right now. So I woke up the next morning though and I saw that and I couldn't believe it. And I immediately said, that's the kind of shitty loss the Steelers used to have or have had in the past or used to expect from the Steelers. You'd be way out ahead and you think, "Ooh, this is great, we're gonna win." And then all of a sudden the other team's coming back and coming back and coming back, and we've taken our foot off the gas. And Ben Roethlisberger looks like he's asleep, and we're not doing anything, and we lose.
Exactly. I don't know what kind of season this is going to be, but if this defense continues to be like this overall, um, I don't know how worried I would be. I know what we all want our defense to come back and perform well and do all that kind of stuff, but this was kind of a Bengals-ish loss. Like, you're really, really good on offense, but boy, I hope the defense doesn't let up more points. If we have to win like that for a little bit, it might be weird in Pittsburgh, like the reverse of the Tommy gun era, but wouldn't be terrible.
Right. Relic said if the defense struggles again, it's time to ring some alarm bells. So let's say they come out week 2. What if we win week 2, but yet our defense still struggles? What if it looks like almost like a repeat of this week 1 game? Are you ringing alarm bells?
I might. It depends on how good we make the opposing quarterback look. That's the difference because we may. Don't get me wrong, Justin Fields is good, but he's not that good. A lot of people were instantly claiming like, "Oh, this is the Justin Fields we should have had." I'm like, nah, and everyone calm down. I think is it Sam Darnold in Seattle?
Yeah.
If we make Sam Darnold look like we can't make 2 subpar quarterbacks look that good 2 weeks in a row. And that's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of Steelers defenses, no matter how good they are across the entirety of a season, having times when they make really not great quarterbacks look elite. There's no reason for that. And that needs to stop.
I mean, look, it's going to happen sometimes, right? Like some players, they're all. I always say this, that everybody we're playing against is also a professional athlete. They're
Yeah.
elite. They're among the best, right? So even Sam Darnold, who may not be like at the top of the quarterback leaderboard, is still among the best in the country that he would even make it to this position. So he's going to have some good games, but you're right. We got to look like we can shut those guys down. I did Joe's podcast last night, and people were bringing up, Justin Fields, and this made him feel like we should have kept Justin Fields. And I said, look, we saw flashes of brilliance from Justin Fields before. He beat us. I think it was his rookie year, right? He looked amazing, ran all over us and won that game. And we all thought all of these things from him. And then we found out he's not able to sustain it and do it consistently. So, I mean, maybe something will change for him. Maybe New York is where he's always been meant to be. And there's something in the Jets organization that'll make it click for him. But I think you can only work with the information you have at that time, right? Like no one has a crystal ball. And in the information we had at the time with Justin Fields is that even when he's good at times, he's not consistent. It's not sustainable.
And the truth is, Justin Fields also didn't want to stay. It's a two-way street. So it wasn't just the Steelers didn't want to keep Justin Fields. Justin Fields did not want to stay with us, obviously.
Right. Yeah, there had to be a little bit more to it. So it wasn't all bad, right? Like, I mean, we're here really coming down hard on the defense, and there's a lot to talk about. I'm not underpinning it at all, but there was some great moments too, some great stuff that hit Jalen Ramsey at the end of the game. I mean, I've watched that thing no fewer than 500 times since the game ended. I can't get enough of it. Every time I see it, I jump in my seat. Like it was unbelievable. He had a fantastic game. I found this really interesting. I saw this after the game that he said this was the first time in his 9 NFL seasons where he played every secondary position in a single game. I thought that was really interesting. I did not realize it was the first time he'd done that. I knew he did it, but I didn't realize it was the first time he'd done that. He's such a versatile guy. And I think his excitement about being a Steeler really shone through, and he looked amazing.
That is, and the good thing is, while he can do that, adding Jabril Peppers means that we have that in our back pocket if we need to use it. But maybe that's why the run defense was a little less, because
Yeah.
with the lack of depth at safety, guys were kind of looking over their shoulder and double checking on stuff. So I'm I did not know we played every secondary. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. That's really impressive. It's what we got him for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
I'm glad he's
exactly
making
right.
that money.
Yeah. So other bright spots on the defense?
Uh
I have a hard
um
time coming down hard on TJ Watt. I know it wasn't a perfect game for him,
no,
but I didn't feel like it was a terrible game for him either.
it was like pretty much the entire game. They were determined to do everything to make sure he couldn't get involved. If it was
Yes.
running, it was running the other way. If it was passing, then we drifted the other direction. Every single, and the few times they got anywhere near him, TJ just blew up the play. So I think but not, you can't win throughout an entire NFL season by doing that. You
Mm-mm.
can't sell out in one direction, because we're going to be able to figure it out eventually.
Yeah. Be able
So
to sniff that out.
I'm not too worried about that. So people overreacting about TJ at the moment, you got to calm down. The same way, we're not Super Bowl bound just yet, everybody. We need to breathe. Aaron Rodgers had a very good game, but we are not going to be the
Clearly, you
worst
meant that
defensive
for
team
Relic.
in the league.
Yeah, clearly you meant that for Relic. Just go ahead and calm down and breathe there with his cannon of an arm. I'll say this too, that I really think that like it's when you look at like how badly our defense played like overall, right? So yes, there was some bright spots. Yes, they were able to get it done at the end and shut them down and secure the win, right? And that we have had plenty of defenses where we wouldn't have shut them down and they would have driven down and scored or kicked a field goal to win the game. So I felt like, they came through at the end when they needed to. They weren't, when you win the game, you can't say it's the worst possible outcome. But I felt like when you have that kind of a situation, guys like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, some of those guys that are a little more consistent, Cam Haywards, they suffer from that. They can't do everything, right? So you've got to, they really rely on that whole unit to kind of mostly work together in lockstep. And we definitely saw that wasn't happening.
That's true, and I kind of look at it from a big picture perspective when it comes to this, because week ones are weird in the NFL. Right now, you have teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs who are sitting around saying, "What on earth?" The Dolphins just got smoked by the coach. Like, there are teams that are sitting around without answers and without a win.
Yeah.
We need some defensive answers, but that's honestly, like Zach said earlier. Sometimes it's win ugly. Early in the season, it's very rarely pretty, and if it is, I am very skeptical of it. I
Yeah.
am very skeptical of teams who start out really, really good, 11-0. So it just be really skeptical of that, because it takes grit and glue guys like Skronik, like Aaron Rodgers said, to win a season, not just winning pretty.
Yeah.
So I'll
Yeah.
I'll win ugly all day long.
Yeah. I saw this from Ryan Clark. I thought this was interesting. He said the biggest winner in the entire Steelers organization is general manager Omar Khan. The Steelers didn't sign big free agents. They didn't make huge trades, but Omar Khan does. Aaron Rodgers had one of his best games since wearing a Packer uniform, but he wasn't the only one. Also, DK Metcalf, Jalen Ramsey, those guys had made game-winning plays. It was one hell of an introduction for the newest Steelers, and I thought, and Gainwell, and I thought that was like so true. I thought, we had some real frustrations in this game, especially on defense, and even some of our offensive players, but really like those new guys that we brought in, they really showed exactly why they were selected.
Exactly. And it'll be really a good example for everyone in that locker room, because a lot of coaches get up and say, okay, guys, anybody could be the one this time. And then week in, week out, it's the same people. No, I think everyone's starting to see this is a specific type of offense where, hey, anybody could be that guy. It was Skronik this week. DK Metcalf will always be that guy, but he didn't, like you said earlier, he didn't have a huge breakout game, and yet it was incredibly impressive. So every single week someone's going to be ready to step up. So
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith could suddenly have a massive breakout game, which I'm expecting it to happen eventually. But Darnell Washington get 3 red zone touchdowns in a single game at some point. We're going to have to win in some strange ways throughout the
Yeah.
season to be able
Yeah.
to make it to the end.
And look, isn't that what it's all about? Like you find ways to win, you find ways to pull it out. Every win isn't the textbook smooth win that you hope for, right? Especially never in Pittsburgh. Ours always have to be like somewhat heart attack inducing. Zach, hit me with my drunk uncle because I got an interesting one this week.
Oh, drunk uncle.
Okay, so this week for our drunk uncle, I have to be very clear that I am not calling my friend Amanda Godsey the drunk uncle because she is not. She is an amazing sports reporter and I absolutely adore her. However, I refuse to give PFF any clicks to go pull this data from them, so I stole her tweet to throw PFF under the bus. She said they had Aaron Rodgers having the 24th best passing grade out of the 31 quarterbacks that played in week 1. Spencer Rattler is number 11 and Bryce Young is number 14. How does that make any sense?
That doesn't.
I mean, is this just Chris Collinsworth, right? It's got to be Collinsworth, just like fuck the Steelers. He's 24th.
It must be that. I was seeing this and I saw that people were upset at how low he was, and I don't think I saw the exact grade. But that's frustrating. I mean, I know no one in the NFL is going to care about that. And who was the team? Was it the Jets from last year, the Giants that were using Madden ratings or something like that? But at a certain point, PFF is kind of like it's kind of cherry picking. Like
the Panthers lost. That's what I was just looking up. I was like, I think they lost. The Panthers lost.
Yep, yeah, and Bryce Young he's that's very strange. Now, I don't understand all of PFF's things, but it's very strangely specific, and they take like some things into consider. They're the same people that consistently tell us that Myles Garrett is better than TJ Watt. So great grain of salt when it comes with that. But
yeah. And the Saints also
24.
lost. And I'm not saying that like the stat that matters most for quarterbacks is whether you win or whether you lose, but they did either one of them put up huge games. The Saints had 13 points in their loss, and the Panthers had 10.
See, what's most frustrating about that is PFF.
How does that even make sense? You didn't even put up enough points to warrant being 11th and 14th or whatever it was.
Exactly. And PFF's supposed to like dig deeper into the whys of things happen and how important is a player to this and all that. If Aaron Rodgers wasn't incredibly vital to the reason that game went the way it is, then I don't understand football at a foundational level. And I know I do. And it's just, there's moments when I sit there and I'm like, you know what? The fact that I never made it onto a PFF staff, I'm like, maybe there's reasons for that. Maybe there's because I see it differently.
Yeah, I struggle with it. I really do. Look, I believe if you've ever listened to me talk, you know that I wholeheartedly believe there's a lot of intangibles. There's a lot of things that you cannot measure that go into winning a football game, all kinds of things that you can't predict or you can't put up against a flow chart or track it with statistics. So I do think that there's a lot of things like that aren't measurable. But when it comes to statistics you're going to put out to compare teams and compare players, you need to stick to things that are somewhat measurable. Otherwise, write an opinion column and call it PFF's opinion, Spencer Rattler had a better game than Aaron Rodgers. Don't try to pretend like that's somehow stat-based or fact-based when it just doesn't even make any sense. It makes it very hard for me to take the stuff they say seriously. Even when everybody was using it 2 years ago as the way to trash Dan Moore, I was like, I can't really believe any of this because there's no basis of fact. I mean, their TJ Watt, Myles Garrett stuff proves that alone.
Yeah, well, when you have to take like 9 different classes just to be able to understand what the stats mean, you're like, okay, you shouldn't be putting them out for everybody then, because you're just lauding over the rest of us that you know what you mean, and
Yeah,
apparently we don't. So
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I was frustrated. Like one more thing I want to talk about real fast before we check out for the night, and this is kind of floated around social media some today. Once again, Tyreek Hill not happy in Miami. He's never seems to be very happy to me. So right away, that immediately started up Twitter with the tweets about the Steelers should go get Tyreek Hill. The Steelers should bring Tyreek Hill in. So I am curious, what do you think? Tyreek Hill, yes or no?
I think it would create more issues than we don't need that. Now, would it immediately make us, well, almost as a requirement, a Super Bowl contender? Probably, but that's a lot of immediate pressure. And I don't know if we need because I haven't heard anything bad from DK so far. But I think from what I saw, Tyreek, I don't know how happy he would be every 2 or 3 games being a focal point. He wants to be a focal point every game, and if we make him a focal point and we make DK Metcalf a focal point, there's way too many mouths to feed in between those two guys that need fed, and we won't be able to do it all. So that's a lot. That's a lot to ask. Plus, we have to give up a lot for him, and I want a quarterback in 2026.
See, I was going to say that. I'd be very concerned about what we have to give up. So if there's some situation where you're given peanuts, right, and you get Tyreek Hill and you don't really give anything up, then I would be willing to consider it. But even still, my worry is so much drama comes with him, right? And I understand maybe he'd come to Pittsburgh and he'd love working for Tomlin, or he'd love being with Aaron Rodgers, or maybe there'd be no drama, right? But you can't guarantee that, and it always seems to be something with him. And I think we've got Calvin Austin has made this tremendous progress. You've got DK Metcalf in there. We've got Roman Wilson. We've got this tight end room. I worry that there's not enough ball to go around to add a Tyreek Hill to the mix without him getting frustrated that he's not being, like you said, fed quite enough. And so then what happens? Then now it's a distraction. Now it's a problem. I don't know. I personally, if you could guarantee he would come and behave himself and stay in his lane, so to speak, and he would be cheap, then I would be willing to me that would make a little bit of sense. But for all of the other stuff, that the unknowns that come along with him.
If this doesn't show how spoiled Steeler fans are from one season of spending a little money, I mean, there are some seasons the signing of Jabril Peppers would have been our big signing. That would have been it. And we've been like, wow, look at what we got. And now it's just like, oh, Jabril Peppers, cool. What about Tyreek? No, everyone just calm down. Okay.
You can't have everybody. You can't have everybody. Just calm down. Which is really why I couldn't believe that people were so freaked out about the $3 million in incentives or whatever they gave to Cam that he'll never even get to see. Right? Like they're like Zach said, they're like team based, right? They got to make the playoffs or win in the playoffs or something. So I mean, he's not even maybe not even ever going to see that money, and that's what you're freaking out about after like all the other money like we spent. Like that's the thing you're so upset about. Like that's nothing. That's like vending machine money in Pittsburgh this year.
Exactly. It's just Pittsburgh fans are interesting.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a really fun offense. It was fun, and it was the first week. We just got we have probably rolled out 3% of what we can do.
Yeah.
And there's so much more fun stuff that we're going to get to see. So everyone, before you just demand Tyreek is there, go on to Madden, move him around, trade him if you need to, breathe, and then come back.
Right. Yeah, so we will be back with our next episode. We'll do another brief pregame show on Friday night, Zach, again on Friday night.
Yeah.
If that changes, we'll let you know on X, but most likely on Friday night at 7-ish, and we'll get that out to you with that link. We'll come in and talk real quick about that Seahawks game as we see how the rest of this week kind of closes out and what we're seeing and hearing. And we'll come back and talk about that. But if you've joined us tonight, we really appreciate everybody chiming in. Relic and Vicky and Zach Smith, we appreciate you guys so much. If you're catching us at the end of the show or after the show was filmed, drop us a note on Twitter or on YouTube and let us know what your thoughts are about everything we talked about, winners and losers in the game, Tyreek Hill, yes or no, how you felt about Cam, Jabril Peppers, all of it. There was a lot to talk about. We appreciate you guys watching.
Leanne and Zach would like to thank you for tuning in to the Steel City Huddle podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.